Grateful for each and every one of you. Looking forward to today's session. I hope you're all well and doing great. This session is going to be, I think, spectacular. Let's just put it that way. Let's frame it like that. Now let's see if we're able to live up to that type of intro to today's session. Yesterday's was also fantastic. I saw a lot of you saw yesterday's session. If you didn't get the opportunity yet, I think that is one that should not be missed. And this one as well. We are looking now 38% drawdown from the end of March. And then all the way from the all-time high, we're looking at almost a 57% correction at this particular point. We had a huge technical breakdown, the channel support at 35,000. And I just want to bring our attention to where I believe we go from here now that we did have this big technical breakdown. 58,000 January 2023. That's where my eyes are. I believe that Bitcoin will be priced, which is so bullish that it's ridiculous. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But now that channel support has broken, it likely means that we're looking at some sideways chop, right? We could still make lower lows into the summer before resumption into the fall. If that's not the case, and we're looking at the beginning of a prolonged bear market with further legs down, we're going to look across the whole board today, make sure that everyone has all the vantage points they need to go ahead and, first of all, have the clarity they need to carry out their investment thesis, and then also at the same time to further tighten up and manage their risks. There was a comment on the YouTube video I was just looking at this morning, and the person was like, I did not at 53,000 de-risk down. I didn't really heed that warning. I did now at 35,000. And that's the smart thing to do, right? At this point, we were saying before the breakdown, look, if you're late, but at this point, if you hadn't already done it, you have to do it. Here's the thing, though. You all know that on Friday was the first time in 6 months, 35,000, that I'm looking to dollar cost average in. So again, it's different for different people depending on what type of position you are. If you're in a position of power, and for 6 months, I was not buying Bitcoin. And I was saying to everyone, hey, look, this is a good time to build up reserves for the foreseeable future until the Fed pivots. And that has not changed at all. And I don't know what's in store. This is a big week. Every week's a big week. It's the markets. They're constantly pricing in every single bit of data possible. And then looking forward, we have the CPI. The CPI this week is obviously a big event. Are we going to be looking at expectations of the tightening that we have throughout the rest of the year? Are those going to stay in check? They're priced to perfection right now. Or do we see some signs that year over year, we're looking at inflation numbers starting to level off? A lot of people, some people are talking right now about an 85% drawdown from the all-time high. It takes us to about $10,000 Bitcoin. It's possible. We've had multiple 85% drawdowns before. A lot of people likened what happened in the dot-com bubble bust to what could happen right now on Bitcoin as the Fed begins tightening. They're just getting started. They haven't even started pulling away liquidity yet. And, if they go towards destruction, right, until something breaks, people are rightfully so looking at what they deem to be their greatest risk. I don't think it's likely that it could happen. And if it did, that would be a really tough one, and it would raise a whole lot of questions about Bitcoin as well as what's going on with the adoption. And that's what I'm watching. At the rate that Bitcoin is growing and being adopted, it just wouldn't make sense. So it's hard for me to envision. Nevertheless, a lot of people are really looking for a 70% drawdown from that all-time high in towards that like $19,000, $20,000 area, $21,000 area. And they would be very happy to pick up Bitcoin over there. By the way, that's just above the previous cycle all-time high. If from my own vantage point, it would be very worrisome if price were to trade below that. Something would be very wrong, in my opinion, on so many different levels. We are right now towards an area where Bitcoin has capitulated in the past when tracked from how many days past the structure high. And you can see just in the zone where my mouse is going over these, let's call it 5-6 months. That's in the past where Bitcoin put it in the bottom. I mean, is that a capitulation? I mean, look, from where we are right now, after taking out 35,000, zoom out a little bit till we get to those CTM trend lines. And there's slight local support, down much further as Bitcoin potentially looks to put in a bottom. And we tried to talk about yesterday how difficult it is to try to time a bottom. So rather than try to time the bottom, obviously we're waiting for the next buy signal. So what I want to start off with, and just so everyone here knows starting from the beginning, when I talk about Bitcoin $60,000 come January the 1st, the reason why I'm doing that is I'm following the yellow line, the highlighted big yellow line. And most of the time, price is above that line. There are some occurrences where it's below those lines, and throughout this whole history, it's been pretty short. If I want you to follow the price of Bitcoin. I'm going to read it off to you as we go. I'm starting in 2015 as Bitcoin comes out of the hype phase into the facing reality stage, or I've looked at the angle year over year, January to 1st, is 107 and 0.17. It's arbitrary, but this is where I have it, and the number that goes the whole way up. That's where the reading is at January the 1st, 2003. We're looking at like 58,000 Bitcoin on January the 1st. Normally, Bitcoin is higher, not lower. What's interesting, if I read off to you the price of Bitcoin right now, starting in 2015, it's the mean price. The price is $267, right? And that slowly rises now at $350, and it's continuing to rise and slope up. $600 in October of 2016. And then this bull market really starts in 2017 at the height of it in December. Why Bitcoin is trading at $19,000, the model has it priced at $1,500, right? And you saw that big move up and then the reversion all the way back down. Finally, at the end of the bear market, meeting at around $3,000. You have both price and that continued mean price of the line. It gets ahead at times. Most of the time, it's above the yellow line. You could see in 2020, price is at $6,500. And then we had, before the bull market began, over the summer of 2020 into the fall, you saw that price got very ahead of the mean price because it was at 16,000 in April when Bitcoin peaked. 16,000. And then you can see that we've now come to a point where price is below that mean average over here. Mean average is currently somewhere around $35,000. You could look at the two. I'm on the weekly chart. You never see me on the weekly chart. I wanted to include the 200 weekly moving average on Bitcoin. On a monthly basis, Bitcoin has never traded below it. At a month close, it's never traded below it. It seems like a good place for a lot of people to step in and buy Bitcoin, and a lot of people are waiting and looking to do that. I want to compare it with just our straight line over here, just to show the difference. By the way, they're both converging right now on the same area. You could see that would be what, about a 70% correction from the all-time high. Is Bitcoin going to have an 85% correction? I think everything is obviously on the table. That would be it just wouldn't add up. It does through the adoption rate of Bitcoin. That would be very hard, even in light of current Fed policy, for me to put together, for me to compute. I just can't go off of the internet during its hype phase and then compare the drawdown off of that and say, well, if Amazon in 2000 went off 90%, then Bitcoin is also going to do that here in 2022. They see Bitcoin is almost making through the facing reality stage into its ultimate market opportunity, meaning that it's here to stay. Now, it could fall and it could fail, and that's going to be a place we'll know, obviously, if we see Bitcoin taking out that area. So if you're following the 200-day moving average, though, on the weekly time frame, you could see that at times over here, it provided a really good touch, but so did the trend line, right? You can see over here at the March low, that moving average, again, providing a really good touch but so did the trend line, right? And the thing is that this is a big deviation. This whole time in 2015, 2016, into 2017, as Bitcoin is just trending along the line as it does before the bull market starts, there was a big deviation to the downside between where the 200 weekly moving averages, for example, in October 2016 at $350 compared to 610 at the price. And that happens again throughout this whole area over here from since the summer of 2019 into the present. You could see that the line is just way down. So the trend line seems a lot superior to me. I just want to just present a different view and see if what that means for other people and how that adds up for them. And that's why I'm tracking along the lines over here and looking at as we come towards January. This is because of the adoption taking place on Bitcoin. It would suggest that we're looking at a price somewhere around $58,000. Most likely it's higher though. I know a lot of people, and rightfully so, if we see a big technical breakdown in this area, at that point, we could be seeing prolonged damage. I have no idea what it would look like. Assuming that we don't run into any type of, let's say, beyond crisis event that would cause that. Don't forget, this is the global lockdowns, the COVID crisis in 2020. It brings price towards the bottom end of the channel, right? It could happen again for sure, especially under a crisis. But are we looking at things break? Anyway, let me get into the part I want to share about CTM 2.0. I think it makes a lot of sense to be looking at the model price being whatever the yellow line is. That helps you manage your expectations in a really solid way. And at the same time, that expect most of the time price will be above that. How do we know when this drawdown, this correction is ending? Because just let me say it here and let me say it now. If we break this area that we deem so important and then we take out the previous all-time high, at that point, I don't know what we're looking at. And you know what? People that said like 10,000 and 14,000, they may be proven that they were correct. What I did want to say is I don't know whether or not that CPI comes out hot this week and then like the market realizes, you know what, the Fed is actually going to tighten a lot more than we even thought, and then things go from right now from bad to worse. It's possible we looked at some type of prolonged recovery. I don't see at this point it being any later than around the summertime. Around the summertime, I expect that we're trading somewhere around this price that we are today, $32,000, right? What happens in between, I'm not really so sure. I believe from that recovery, sometime around by the latest, the summer, at that point, we should be working towards moving and up towards year-end target around $58,000. If that's all occurring prior to and before the halving, the structure taking place on Bitcoin is just incredibly bullish, getting ready for the next leg up. So that's where we are now. How do we know? And that's the question that I want to answer. There's only one way that we know. All right, this is the rate hike expectations that we're currently looking at, and then the Nasdaq. Are we going to see some type of reversion here? It looks like it. It's a big day tomorrow, and that also has a good chance of whether or not we go lower from here or not. Right? Instead of trying to get caught up in this chop and trying to time something, it's really difficult to try to to time a bottom or even look for them or even look for any type of not only bottom, but, are we going to see some type of bounce up? And then are we going to see that channel become resistance? If you see a resumption off of there, at that point, that could be something suggesting like we're looking at some type of prolonged price correction. Again, I think it's going to be sometime around the summer, right? When that is, June, July, August, or September, I have no idea, but around that time, we should be recovered and trading by around 32,000. That's my worst case scenario. And, is it possible that tomorrow we see some type of like reaction to the CPI and then all of a sudden we're back into this channel? I'm not going to like put that type of hope out there. But if that happens, that would negate what just happened, and structurally, that would be really good. Is something like that possible? Would it trap a lot of people on the wrong side? There's no question about that. That's also the danger, by the way, when you de-risk down, if price comes back up, you might want to get that position back on. Is what we talked about when we lost 53,000. We said, all right, Now the risk becomes not owning Bitcoin. If price regains that level at any point and you have not yet reestablished your position, it's time to take that position. The best way to look at that is reestablishing that position on this trend line break over here. That was at like 38,000 Friday, the February the 4th. And then once you lost the 35,000 trend line support, you're taking that small $3,000 loss. You're on the right side, break back above that channel. Time to get back in, stay on the right side. And don't forget the biggest let's say advantage came from that $53,000 break up into this was a small loss, and then you get another small loss down over here. Anyway, I don't know what's going on as far. Look, tomorrow is we know when the Fed does pivot. At that point, everyone is going to be looking to jump on. So I don't think that anyone should try to front run the Fed pivoting, because the greatest risk of all is that it doesn't come. Markets seem to, for sure, being quicker and quicker about front running things. We'll see. I have no other further comment until we see tomorrow's CPI print. We decided a while ago that once again this was a trader's market and data dependent. And when we're looking at all of a sudden now, whatever the high impact news event is, but when it matters to the market, at that point, that's the type of market we're in, and that goes on until the Fed does pivot.